You are exhausted. You drag yourself through the workday relying on caffeine, feeling like you are moving underwater. But the moment your head hits the pillow at 11 p.m., a flip switches. Your heart races, your mind spins, and you are suddenly wide awake, gripped by a strange, nervous energy. Welcome to Dr. Levitas. You have likely scoured the internet, and you have probably handed a very comforting diagnosis: adrenal fatigue. The story goes that your glands are tired, they have run out of cortisol, and they just cannot produce enough energy hormones to keep you going. But that entire story is a biological myth. Your adrenal glands are not tired. They are pumping out hormones just fine. The problem is far more complex, and frankly, far more fascinating. Your body is screaming, but your cells have put on noise-canceling headphones. Today, we are going to dismantle the myth of adrenal fatigue and expose the true, scientifically backed condition that is ruining your energy, wrecking your sleep, and stalling your metabolism. We are talking about cortisol resistance, and what we call the deaf cell syndrome. Please take a second to like the video and leave a comment. Your engagement is a huge help to the channel. To solve this energy crisis, we first have to align with actual, clinical endocrinology. If you walk into a board-certified endocrinologist's office and tell them you have adrenal fatigue, they will likely roll their eyes. Why is the medical community so resistant to this term? Because from a physiological standpoint, your adrenal glands do not simply fatigue or run out of hormones due to daily stress. The adrenal glands are incredibly robust, survival-driven organs. The only time they genuinely stop producing cortisol is in the presence of a severe, autoimmune disease called Addison's disease, or structural damage to the pituitary gland. In the absence of those rare diseases, your adrenals have a near-infinite capacity to manufacture cortisol from cholesterol. When researchers actually test the blood and saliva of people suffering from severe burnout, they rarely find low cortisol. In fact, they often find normal or even highly elevated levels of circulating cortisol. The hormone is there. The factory is working perfectly. So, why do you feel so incredibly drained? The answer lies not in the production of the hormone, but in the reception of the hormone. You're suffering from cortisol resistance. To understand this, we have to look at a parallel condition that you are already familiar with: insulin resistance. When you eat too much sugar over a decade, your pancreas pumps out massive amounts of insulin. Eventually, your cells get overwhelmed by the constant shouting of insulin, so they protect themselves by down-regulating, or turning off, their insulin receptors. The insulin is in the blood, but the cell refuses to listen. Cortisol resistance operates on the exact same biological principle. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. It is designed to be released in short, acute bursts to save your life from a predator, and then quickly clear from your system. But in our modern world, you are stressed 24/7. Financial stress, sleep deprivation, relationship drama, and the constant barrage of emails keep your body flooded with cortisol all day, every day. Your cells are highly intelligent. When they are bombarded by this toxic, non-stop flood of cortisol, they enact a defense mechanism. They down-regulate their glucocorticoid receptors. They literally take off their biological antennas and put on noise-canceling headphones. The cortisol is swirling around in your bloodstream, but the message cannot get inside the cell. You have plenty of the energy hormone, but your cells are completely deaf to it. This deafness triggers a catastrophic chain reaction in your brain, specifically within the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or the HPA axis. The HPA axis is your body's stress command center. When your brain perceives stress, the hypothalamus shouts to the pituitary gland, which then shouts down to the adrenal glands to release cortisol. In a healthy body, once the cortisol is released and does its job, it travels back up to the brain and hits a kill switch. It tells the brain, okay, we handled the stress, you can stop shouting now. This is called a negative feedback loop. But what happens when your brain's receptors are also deaf? The cortisol travels back up to the brain, but the brain cannot hear the kill switch signal. The brain looks around, sees the ongoing stress of your daily life, and assumes the adrenal glands haven't done their job. So, the brain panics and shouts even louder. It pumps out even more CRH and ACTH, the chemical signals that command the adrenals to work harder. You end up in a devastating biological loop. The brain is screaming for more stress hormones, the adrenals are frantically pumping out cortisol, but your cells are standing there with their noise-canceling headphones on, completely starved of the cellular energy and regulation they desperately need. When this communication network breaks down, the most immediate and dangerous casualty is your immune system. Cortisol has a very unfair reputation. We think of it only as a stress hormone that makes us gain belly fat. But cortisol is actually the most potent natural anti-inflammatory compound in the human body. When your immune system attacks a virus or repairs a tissue injury, it creates massive inflammation. Cortisol is the fire extinguisher that comes in afterward to calm the immune system down and stop the inflammation from destroying your own healthy tissue. But if you have cortisol resistance, your immune cells are deaf to the fire extinguisher. A landmark 2012 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences demonstrated this beautifully. Researchers found that when people are under chronic psychological stress, their immune cells lose their sensitivity to cortisol. Because the immune cells cannot hear the command to stand down, they launch an unchecked, wildly aggressive inflammatory response. They flood your body with inflammatory cytokines. This is why when you are chronically stressed and burned out, you suddenly develop mysterious joint pain, severe brain fog, digestive issues, and skin breakouts. Your immune system is trapped in a hyperactive state, indiscriminately burning down your own biological house because the chemical fire chief has been locked out of the building. This massive systemic inflammation and broken communication loop perfectly explain the most maddening symptom of all, the tired and wired phenomenon. In a perfectly healthy human, your cortisol levels operate on a beautiful, rolling wave called the diurnal curve. Cortisol should be at its absolute highest right when you wake up in the morning, giving you bright, focused, natural energy to start your day. As the day progresses, it should slowly taper off, dropping to its absolute lowest point at 10 or 11 p.m., allowing your sleep hormone, melatonin, to take over and pull you into deep, restorative sleep. When your cells are deaf and your HPA axis is broken, this curve completely inverts. Because your cells cannot hear the morning cortisol surge, you wake up feeling like you were hit by a truck. You drag yourself through the day. But by 11 p.m., your panicked brain, still not receiving the proper feedback, fires off a massive, inappropriate surge of cortisol and adrenaline. You are physically exhausted from the cellular inflammation, but your nervous system is electrically wired by this late-night adrenaline dump. You are stepping on the gas pedal and the emergency brake at the exact same time. So, how do we fix this? How do we force the cells to take off their noise-canceling headphones and reset the biological thermostat? You cannot cure cortisol resistance by just relaxing or taking a weekend off. You have to aggressively alter the biochemical environment of the cell. And the most powerful, free tool you have to do this is a strict 24-hour fasting protocol. I am not talking about daily intermittent fasting. I am talking about a strategic, therapeutic, zero-calorie fast for a full 24 hours, utilizing only water and electrolytes, done once a week or once every 2 weeks. When you abstain from all food for 24 hours, you completely eliminate the biological noise of digestion, insulin spikes, and blood sugar crashes. Your baseline insulin drops to the floor. When insulin drops, systemic inflammation dramatically decreases. Recent clinical literature has shown that fasting acts as a profound cellular reset switch. By removing the constant influx of energy and inflammatory triggers, you force your cells into a state of deep repair. In this quiet, fasted state, your cells begin to upregulate, or rebuild, their receptor sites. They literally build new, highly sensitive glucocorticoid antennas. You're starving the noise to restore the signal. When you finally break that fast with a nutrient-dense, high-protein meal, your cells are primed, sensitive, and ready to listen to your hormones normally again. Alongside strategic fasting, we must actively repair the broken communication loop in the brain. This is where the profound science of adaptogenic herbs comes into play, specifically the king of HPA axis regulation, Rhodiola rosea. For decades, people have tried to fix their exhaustion by pouring stimulants like caffeine and pre-workouts into their bodies. But stimulants just force your brain to shout louder at cells that are already deaf. It makes the resistance worse. Adaptogens work entirely differently. Rhodiola rosea contains two powerful active compounds, rosavan and salidroside. These compounds do not act as stimulants. They act as a biological thermostat for your HPA axis. When your brain is frantically pumping out stress signals, rhodiola crosses the blood-brain barrier and gently dampens the release of CRH, cooling off the panic command center. It physically repairs the negative feedback loop, allowing your brain to finally hear the kill switch. Clinical trials have consistently shown that Rhodiola rosea effectively lowers the late-night cortisol surges that keep you wired, while simultaneously improving morning mental fatigue. It doesn't force your body to do anything. It simply restores the natural, rhythmic communication between your brain, your adrenal glands, and your cells. The doctor's verdict: take your energy back. You are not failing, and your adrenal glands are not broken. You are simply suffering from a profound biological miscommunication. The deaf cell syndrome is your body's desperate attempt to protect itself from a modern world that never stops shouting. But by understanding the mechanics of cortisol resistance, you can take your power back. By utilizing strategic 24-hour fasting to clear the cellular noise, and leveraging the thermostat-like power of adaptogens like Rhodiola rosea, you can rebuild your receptors, cool off your immune system, and finally restore your natural, vibrant energy curve. Stay resilient, listen to your biology, and I will see you in the next video. Watch this video suggestion, it was especially picked for you. Also share, comment, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It helps a ton with the algorithm. Remain tuned for future videos to empower your health and fitness journey. So, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep going.